Hello Army, and welcome to your #1 spot for all the hottest, deepest, and most heart-stopping BTS news. If you haven't subscribed yet, make sure to hit that button, because today's update is the kind that shakes an entire fandom to its core. Before ARMY even had time to blink, HYBE made a decision so unexpected that it left Jungkook and Taehyung standing on opposite sides of a line they never imagined crossing. And when the truth behind a secret late-night meeting finally slipped out, even the staff who witnessed it couldn't hold back their tears. What I'm about to tell you might completely change how you see everything. It began on a night when the HYBE building felt almost abandoned. The corridors were quiet, the overhead lights dimmed, and most of the staff had clocked out for the day. But behind a thick door marked confidential, something was happening, a meeting that would soon explode into one of the most emotionally charged moments in BTS history. Inside, HYBE executives sat in a room filled with scattered documents, schedules piled on top of contract revisions, and internal reports laid out like pieces of a puzzle no one knew how to solve. The atmosphere was tense, not loud, not chaotic, but painfully still. Something in the company's upcoming plans had forced the board to consider separating Jungkook and Taehyung's activities for the foreseeable future. It wasn't because of any conflict. It wasn't punishment. It wasn't even a choice they wanted to make. In fact, several staff members had seen how much the two relied on one another recently: late-night rehearsals, quiet conversations backstage, soft encouragements exchanged when the exhaustion became too heavy to hide. Their bond was obvious, unshakable. And that was exactly why this decision felt so wrong. A young coordinator stood in the corner with her hands trembling. She had seen Jungkook earlier that day, teasing Taehyung while watching old stage clips. She had seen Taehyung playfully bump Jungkook's shoulder to make him smile. It was the kind of closeness that made people around them feel warm. But now, hearing executives discuss splitting their schedules, she felt her heart drop. The executives weren't cold, they were terrified. Overlapping commitments, overwhelming workload, and the pressure placed on both members individually had reached a dangerous breaking point. The company believed giving them space, at least for a while, would stabilize things. But everyone in the room understood the emotional cost. One terrifying question hung in the air. How would Jungkook and Taehyung react when they learned the truth? Hours later, when the meeting ended, the coordinator slipped out with tears in her eyes. She knew she wasn't supposed to hear any of it. She also knew the news would crush Jungkook, who always took blame on himself even when he had zero reason to. And Taehyung, who masked pain with a smile. She knew this would hit him harder than anyone expected. She planned to stay quiet. But someone else in the building didn't. And that's how the rumor began, quietly, secretly, spreading like a spark in dry grass. At first, only a few night shift staff whispered about a sudden schedule change. Someone else mentioned a confidential meeting. Someone else said the word separation. And by morning, these tiny pieces of overheard conversations had turned into a shockwave HYBE was not prepared to handle. When Taehyung arrived at the building the next day, he knew immediately something was wrong. The halls felt colder. Staff avoided his eyes. Even the air felt heavy, like a storm waiting to break. Jungkook was already in the practice room, seated on the floor. His posture looked relaxed, but his eyes were distant, too distant. "You okay?" Taehyung asked quietly. Jungkook forced a smile, the kind that didn't reach his eyes. Taehyung saw through it instantly. Before he could speak again, a senior manager entered the room with an expression that made both of their hearts sink. "We need to talk." The walk to the conference room felt endless. When they stepped inside, executives were already waiting, stacks of papers organized into hopelessly neat piles, like they were trying to put order into something they knew would cause chaos. "We'll get straight to the point," one executive said. "Due to restructuring and upcoming schedules, we've decided to temporarily separate your promotions." The words hit harder than a physical blow. Taehyung froze. Jungkook went pale. For how long? Taehyung asked, voice barely above a whisper. We're finalizing the details. Which meant they had no timeline at all. Jungkook's voice shook. Why weren't we told sooner? We didn't want to come to you until it was confirmed. But the damage was already done. Both members could feel their entire world tilting off balance. When they left the room, Jungkook stopped in the hallway, eyes shining with fear he couldn't hide. I don't want this, he whispered. Not like this. Taehyung placed a hand on his back. We won't let this change anything between us. Promise? Jungkook asked. I promise. But the outside world had other plans. Because during their meeting, a leaked message had already escaped into social media, and by the time they returned to the practice room, the entire internet was burning. Jungkook's phone buzzed uncontrollably. Taehyung's lit up too. When they opened their apps, their hearts sank. Hashtags everywhere, like HYBE explain. Protect Jikook. Why separate them? A 23-second voice note, a muffled clip from the confidential meeting, had gone viral. Fans heard a single sentence. We may need to separate Jungkook and Taehyung for upcoming activities. It's not optional. Taken out of context, it sounded cold. Final. Like a breakup. And now, the entire fandom was panicking worldwide. Jungkook's hands shook as he scrolled through crying fans, theories, mistranslations, and fear-filled posts. They think we're being torn apart, he whispered. They think we did something wrong. Taehyung gently took his phone. This isn't our fault. But the storm outside was only growing. Security rushed through the building. Managers scrambled to contain the mess. HYBE's PR department went into full crisis mode. Then came the knockout punch. A major international news outlet picked up the story, twisting it into claims of deep conflict inside HYBE. The situation was officially out of control. Thank you for watching today's emotional update, Army. If you love staying on top of every detail, every twist, and every behind-the-scenes moment in the BTS universe, make sure you're subscribed. More breaking updates, dramatic deep dives, and heartfelt stories are on the way.